Viraj, thank you so much for helping with my project. Could you say a little bit about yourself?
Hi, Nathan. It's nice to talk to you. My name is Viraj. I've been born and brought up in Dubai until recently making a move over here, and I've had the privilege to meet and talk about space tech with you. So I'm really excited to go ahead with this conversation, and I really want to congratulate you on this initiative that you've taken. To talk to a lot of people and mark the countdown before NASA sends its first person to the moon.
Thank you very much. And also, I just got the book that was published by your mom about
Yeah,
let's see, Culture Shock Dubai. So I
yeah,
look forward to reading that. I was hoping to go there in October for the International Astronautical Congress and the World Expo. I thought that would be
yes,
kind of neat.
yes. That these two events, they are quite marquee. They're quite distinguished, one of its kind. But yes, I maybe not this year, but I think next year is. When I'm not sure about the I'm sure the Expo 2020 is happening, but the other one, I'm not really aware whether is it happening or not. But yes, it is quite a sight to see next year.
Raj, did you know that NASA was planning to send people to the moon in 2024?
So the thing is that, to be frank, I have read about NASA rolling out this vision that they want to send people to Mars by 2024, and they're working on a slew of technologies to help humans sustain in the red planet. Yes, I have briefly read about it. Yes.
Um, and would you believe that most of the people I talk to haven't heard about it? And I was just curious in um, what you think needs to be done differently to kind of get broader
Um,
attention.
you know, the thing is, to be frank, there's always a plethora of rumors swirling around the internet that, oh, NASA is planning to go outer space. They're planning to go beyond Pluto. They're planning to not just send a man. They're also planning to send a dog to Mars. And there's a lot of unbelievable stuff that circulates around the internet. So it does, get people, a bit. They people do find it a bit insane to believe that, wow, is this for real? But I think, after reading about NASA, like after seeing it from their website, that yes, they are serious about sending people on moon by 2024. I think it is fair to believe that it is a credible, it is a credible thing to say.
It's funny you talk about sending a dog. Um, I think if NASA was sending a dog to the moon, that would get way more attention than sending people.
uh, yeah, even it just sounds too good to be true. But yes, if they send a dog, then that's just going to be a another notch level, for mankind, and obviously for our friends, for furry friends, perhaps.
I'm just imagining the little dog in his spacesuit with a leash and a collar with the man in his space or the woman in her spacesuit walking the dog. That would be quite the sight.
Yeah, that will be something really. It's just something you've never unimagined of. So yeah, it would be quite a stunning thing to see.
I wonder if it'd be better to put him into a hamster ball instead of a spacesuit. That
Oh yes,
way, a little bit.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I just wonder how would a dog be able to fit in in a custom made dog suit rather hamster ball. It just might work out.
Um, so, what do you think about us sending people to the moon again in 2024? Do you think it's a good thing, bad thing, wrong timing? What's your thoughts?
Had you told me about NASA sending people to the moon in 2019, yes, I would have 100% believed it, and I would have supported the idea. I feel it is I feel it is something that will really pave the way for uh, it will pave a different way for mankind. But the thing is that given the outbreak of coronavirus and the economic calamity that it has caused, I believe I believe NASA should take a step back. I think there should be funds perhaps allocated for maybe some economic stimulus or something more towards the welfare of the people on Earth. Rather than spending on R&D and sending people to Mars, because I feel that maybe sending people on Mars in 2026 or 2027, we can wait for 2 3 more years. But I just feel that the amount of money that is being put into R&D right now for sending people to Mars, I think it could be rather used right now for the people over here. Just my thoughts, but I mean, I just feel that everyone is entitled to their own opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is a very important discussion to have and a very important insight. But just out of curiosity, how much money do you think we're spending on NASA per year?
So I do, from what I've read about NASA, and not just NASA, but even other space authorities, none of them they really like to reveal their budget for any missions. Like for example, for me, having been born and raised in the United Arab Emirates, they recently last July uh, they lifted off its first interplanetary mission where they sent an orbiter to Mars, and they were very tight-lipped about the budget. And I believe the same is with NASA. So the thing is that we never much know about the budget, but I have a feeling that if not billions, it should have been at least about maybe like 2 3 trillions.
Um, with NASA's budget, it actually is a public record, and
Oh, okay,
it's actually you can see kind of the breakdown by the different things that NASA does. So
okay.
um, in this coming year, NASA is going to get about $23 billion. Um,
Oh my.
half of
Okay.
that's going to be spent on human space flight, and half of that's going to be spent on the other things that NASA does. NASA,
Mhm.
is also sending a probe to Mars. They have
Yes.
some landers they're sending to the moon, or actually they're paying companies to send to the moon. They're maintaining the International Space Station, and also they're supposed to be launching, um, a huge telescope this year. That's a long time behind budget.
Right.
So of the, approximately, 11.5 billion dollars that they have, I think only about 3 or 4 billion of that is actually going towards, uh, getting people back to the moon this year. And that's mainly, the continuation of the building of, um, uh, the huge rocket that's going to take the astronauts to around the moon. These companies that are building the human landing system and things like that. So really, going to the moon in 2024 are not we're looking at about maybe $3 to $5 billion a year.
Mhm.
So I guess giving the $3 to $5 billion a year, do you still see that as being a huge amount of money, or is that much smaller than what you were thinking?
Well, actually, now that you said about the money, actually, even I was also taken by surprise. When I came to know that NASA has been public about its funding. I never, to be frank, I didn't know about it. I feel that yes, anything that goes to a billion is a lot of money. That goes without saying. Uh, I still, I would still feel that it is, maybe they should halt the funding, or maybe they should, uh, maybe not like completely halt, but at least, there should be a small cut in the funding, towards NASA's experiments. Yes, I'm all for, landing in the moon, and I'm all for space sector, but I do feel that, given the state of the economic crisis, I would rather, if I were if I were in the US government and were to advise NASA, I would say, let's just halt the funding for maybe like 2 or 3 years, wait for the economy to recover, and then go ahead and fund for the space for the Mars mission.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, one thing to consider about that money, though, is
Hmm.
that's actually hiring people and putting them to work.
Okay. Okay.
So, if you cut the funding there, then those people would need to go find other jobs, which, maybe it's a good thing.
Oh,
But
okay.
as far as I
Okay.
know, though, our problem isn't a shortage of people; it's a shortage of jobs.
Oh, yes,
So,
yes, yeah,
so
that's true.
that's one other thing to consider is that um, with these programs. But are there other things that you think we're also maybe need to make adjustments to? Like, for example, um, we're going through a multi-decade process of refreshing and enhancing our nuclear arsenal, and the cost of doing that is roughly the same as NASA's entire budget. And I was wondering if you thought that's something that was worthwhile.
So are you saying that are you talking about the nuclear sector? Is actually I'm a bit off guard on this. Are you saying
Y-
that US is planning to build a nuclear reactor where they can create nuclear energy?
Well, that's something completely separate. I'm talking strictly about our nuclear bombs and nuclear missiles for the
Oh, okay.
purpose of destroying the world before anybody else
Oh,
does.
sorry. I actually, to be frank, I really didn't know about this. Thing is that there is a lot of there's a lot of things that the government is spending on and about missiles and weapons of mass destruction. I didn't really know it. If this was the case, then I would rather advise for going all for funding NASA instead of weapons. We definitely don't want a World War III after coronavirus pandemic.
Yeah, we don't. That's true. It's,
But on coming back to the space sector and getting people to Mars, I really find it very not just interesting, but I really find it stunning that how SpaceX is leading is a pioneer for the private sector and how it is taking its efforts as well to get people on Mars.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, SpaceX you mentioned is founded and ran by Elon Musk, and he has a vision of having a city on Mars that people would be able to live on before the end of his life. And he seems really um, determined to make that vision come true.
Absolutely. To be frank, I feel that it is quite it is quite a in 2021 it's it's like it's quite unimaginable, but you just never know. The thing is that Tesla and SpaceX, they've been a company of who have been rolling out technologies that has changed the world quite a lot in the last few years, and I think they're quite on the way of leading the private sector in terms of getting people on Mars. It is quite unimaginable.
Yeah, I mean, I was just driving behind somebody on the car the other day, and the gas that was coming out of their tailpipe was very unpleasant. And I was
Oh,
just thinking, in a decade or two, whenever electric cars become the normal, this would be one of the things that go away. You won't have to
yes.
smell the gas, and you won't have to hear the loud engine noises either. It should be a lot quieter too.
Absolutely. To be frank, being a car enthusiast, I would prefer the sound of a car engine, so I know that the car is active and the car is in a stable condition. Without the sound of an engine, you just don't know like how is the car so silent. But yes, I do feel that it is bound to happen. Electric vehicles, they need to be more prioritized or more mainstream production produced than what uh, gasoline or diesel cars are, because it's just that it is way more environmentally cautious than what we have right now.
Absolutely.
Also, so you know what I wanted to touch upon one topic when it comes to not just NASA but coming to Mars in general. So in 2014, not in 2014, but in 2017, the United Arab Emirates government, they announced that just like SpaceX, they want to build a city in Mars too by 2117. And fun fact, there is already a part, there is a tiny town in the middle of the deserts in the United Arab Emirates where they have just allocated for a city named as Martian City. So when this project was first announced, it was like the photos, they just seemed to be too good to be true. Like it seemed as if it's just a photoshopped city. Like they've just photoshopped a few sand dunes in red color, and a few buildings here and there to make it look like it's straight out of a science fiction movie. But in reality, the city is in the works, this Martian city, so to speak. And what they're doing is they're trying to take inputs from the Mars orbiter, which is about to schedule to reach the red planet by February 2021. So we are just weeks away from its arrival. And what they're planning is that they will observe the climate, and they will observe the functioning of the planet, and they will make a similar Mars-like conditions in that city. So isn't it surprising? They're trying to make Mars type of a city on Earth.
I think that's amazing, especially if they have people living there in sort of the same conditions on an ongoing basis that they would be in Mars. Because
Mhm.
I feel like, a lot of people in the space community who talk about building a city on Mars really have no clue what it would be like to live in such a city.
Oh
And
yeah,
we should be testing that out and kind of perfecting that down here before we go anyplace.
right. Right, right. It is, yeah, it is. It's going to be a huge milestone, if they're able to make something like what Mars is like on Earth, and if we get to experience it firsthand, I think that's when we will question ourselves that why whether is it worth moving to Mars or to stay here. But yes, having said that, I think not only for the United Arab Emirates, that will be a milestone for like for mankind, that we can now experience what it is like to live on the red planet while we are on Earth. And what I feel is that uh, maybe like what happened was, I remember since I was 10, 11 years old, I would open the newspaper, and every now and then I would see that NASA is planning some new experiment to see if there is water discovered on Mars, or what's the weather like over there. And I just found it too good to be true. But then thing is that this decade, not this decade, but the past decade, 2010s, is when we've actually seen NASA and a lot of space authorities take efforts, and they've gone at great lengths to research about what life is like in Mars. So I feel that maybe uh, 7 to 10 years down the line, we really might have a strong answer, to what life is like in Mars. And I think by then we will be really well equipped, with enough knowledge to know that how we can really make a move from Earth to Mars. That's my input, to be frank.
The thing that we know about Mars right now is it's extremely cold and the
Yes.
atmosphere is extremely, extremely thin. In fact, if you were at the top of the Himalayas, the pressure there would be way higher than even at the lowest point in Mars. So
Oh, okay.
it's we really have it good here on Earth.
Yeah, I agree with that. I've read countless stories about people trekking in the Himalayas and Mount Everest. There have been some really not just, I would say, dangerous, but some near fatal experiences people have had of dreaming to reach a, 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 a noticeable height on Mount Everest or the Himalayas, but halfway through, they've had some really hard experiences. And I think those experiences would be maybe reminiscent of what it would be at the lowest point in Mars, I suppose.
Indeed, indeed, and it just it's one thing to go up there and visit for a few hours. It's another thing to live there for years at a time. Uh, it'd be kind of interesting to see people at the top of these tall mountains actually living there in communities for so long.
Right, right. So on that note, I wanted to ask, is there any other planet, from your knowledge, is there any other planet which humans can explore, or is Mars the closest planet, or not just closest, not it's not about proximity, but is Mars the only planet which there seems to be some sort of life that can be explored?
Well, there's some moons of Jupiter and some moons of Saturn that are fairly big, that
Uh-huh.
also have atmospheres that have apparently like water ice, and even one that's completely covered in liquid methane. So there's definitely a lot more to explore. I don't remember all the details about the different moons of Jupiter and Saturn, but I do know that there's been talk that some of them might be worthwhile checking out. Of course, the further you get away from the sun, the less of sun's energy that makes it to you. But apparently, like the pull of Jupiter's gravity causes the core of some of these planets to heat up, and they're actually warmer than you would think. So that's something to check out. But in terms of planets for humans to live on, I think based upon all of our exploration so far, Earth is definitely the garden spot.
Absolutely, absolutely. Actually, I'm just actually coming to know from you today that the rings, or the planets of Jupiter and Saturn, they can be livable on. So actually, I've learned something new today. So thanks to you.
Well, and there's some people that say, why even live on a planet? Let's use, um, the resources of like meteors and the moon and what have you, and build huge space structures. And then
Mhm.
maybe you can spin them so that if you're on the inside, the spin is pulling you towards the outside. And if they're big enough, then it would feel just like you were in your own world. And we could put them wherever we want. Like we could have literally, billions of people living around the earth instead of on the earth. And in fact, maybe at some point nobody lives on the earth permanently. You just come down here for a visit or so. It just becomes like a state park.
Wow, that's a stunner. I never really even uh I never even imagined of such a thing of people living outside Earth and on meteors. That is just that's bizarre. That's bizarre, but I won't be surprised if this turns out to be a reality.
Well, and it's about taking the metal out of the meteors and creating these huge space structures, cities in the sky. It's
Wow.
kind of amazing.
Yeah, that is quite something, to see something in a science fiction movie, so to speak.
Absolutely. Talking about going to space, if it was safe and affordable, would you have an interest in going into space?
I think it goes without saying, yes, if it was if it would come under an affordable price tag, I would well, perhaps I would want to start off with something of being a tourist in space. I know that SpaceX, they've already started rolling out space tourism packages where they launch a rocket, like they just touched above the Earth's atmosphere. You're just like briefly into space, and then you come back down. I know that is a thing, that has been going on by SpaceX since the last 2 years. But yes, I would probably want to start off as a space tourist, and then maybe decide about living in another planet. Yes, it does sound too good to be true, but I would actually be interested uh, to explore another planet to live on.
Um, yeah, would you take like a week or two trip to the moon if you could?
Indeed, of course, I would. I think the very fact to land on moon is quite hard. I was reading that NASA is working on some heat shield type of a surface, or not some surface, but some equipment, from which humans can, in one way or the other, they can land safely and be able to walk on moon. Because the only thing right now on the red planet is just the it's just a car, right? If I'm not wrong, I'm unable to recall the name, but there is one machine that has been moving around Mars, if I'm not wrong.
Oh yes, Elon Musk and SpaceX, they were testing the Falcon Heavy rocket, and
Yes,
for the
yes, yes,
test flight, nobody wanted to send their satellite or send some other payloads, so he launched his car in an
yes.
orbit that goes around the sun, but all the way out past the orbit of Mars.
Yes, yeah, that's the one. I think that happened. If I'm not wrong, that happened in 2017 or 2018. I remember that it was. there was quite a it was quite a, what do you say, an extraordinary publicity stunt. But yes, that's what got all of us sold on to the concept of Tesla and SpaceX.
Yeah, it was a beautiful synergy between the two companies.
True,
You
true,
know,
indeed.
people are like, "Wow, Tesla is out of this world," and I, now that's literally true. Um, and in fact, from the perspective of space, uh, you really don't know what's going on here on Earth, and all of a sudden, after millions of years of the sun's light falling on the Earth, it it emits a Tesla. It's kind of weird from the outside.
And what thing is that after seeing that publicity, not the publicity itself, but after seeing the car orbiting around Mars, I won't be surprised if the first Tesla Cybertruck arrives in Mars before it arrives on Earth.
I know. I mean, that may be all you have to do is make it pressurized. That may be the way that people get around Mars and the moon. Um,
True.
that's pretty neat.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. And I feel that with the um I think with the type of science fiction movies we are seeing nowadays, like I know at one point of time when I was like 7 8 years after binge watching all the Star Wars movies, I really wanted to explore a career, something to do with the space sector, or getting to Mars. But although that never really happened, but I do see a lot of success stories where a lot of uh, a lot of people from the young crowd, who saw these science fiction movies, they were like, "Whoa, I really want to work in the space or aeronautics." And surprisingly, some people have actually been successful enough to be part of teams that send Mars orbiters or moon orbiters. So it is really quite surprising, isn't it?
It is. It is really an amazing time to be alive. And
True.
just you mentioned COVID. I mean, can you imagine if we had this kind of COVID experience like 20 years ago or 30 years ago? I mean, our communication technology and the internet was nothing like it
Oh,
is
yeah.
now.
There is a joke that which I was joking, which I was making a joke of a couple of days ago, that had coronavirus struck 20 years ago or 15 years ago, we've been bored. We've been on another level of boredom, because we would be playing the Snake game on our Nokia 3310.
Indeed, indeed, with a black and white screen, probably.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah,
that's true.
it's really amazing how quickly, the phone has developed. Um,
Indeed, indeed, it is. It
and
is very praiseworthy, and I just hope that the space sector also revolutionizes, just like how the smartphone tech industry keeps upgrading itself every year.
yeah, and I feel like Elon Musk with what he's doing with Starship down there in South Texas in Boca Chica, where he's actually creating this 100% reusable spacecraft that he can use for a variety of things to take you from point to point on Earth. So you go from Houston to Dubai in 30 minutes. It could take you to orbit. It could take you to the moon. It could take you to Mars. And he's not just building one of them, but he's building a factory of them. And each one would be able to
Whoa.
do, uh, multiple flights per day. And I feel like this is something that had come about in like the next 5 years or so. And whenever that happens, I feel like it'd be like the release of the iPhone. Uh, you know, it'd be the iPhone for space, if you will.
Oh yes, absolutely. I remember reading about that project last year, and simultaneously with that, I remember seeing that the Virgin company, they had introduced the Hyperloop. I believe you're aware of that.
Mhm. Yeah,
So it was a project, where they have a train system, which can reach one city to another, in really quick time. Like if it takes 4 hours to reach from Houston to Dallas, it can cut down the time to maybe 20 to 40 minutes. So, and at the same time, I read about this plan by SpaceX, and Tesla, to introduce this spaceship, which Starship, perhaps, which can go from city to city and like in even ultra quick time. So yes, I do find it quite fascinating, and the best thing is that it would just make the world such a small place then, and that would make people more curious that they want to explore other planets. They've had enough of planet Earth.
Absolutely. Just like kind of, it's going to be an amazing decade, I think. And
True.
I,
And
I, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
oh yes, actually, on that note, I wanted to ask you, what's your take on the spaceport that Houston is building?
Yeah. So, um, I, essentially it's down there, that airport that's next to the Johnson Space Center. And I think they'll be able to have uh, rocket planes that take off horizontally and land horizontally. It's unclear to me on who's going to be actually using the spaceport. I know that there's a company in Houston called Intuitive Machines that's going to be landing a probe on the moon later this year. They're actually using part of a runway there for some of the testing that they do. But
Oh,
uh,
okay. Go
honestly,
ahead.
I know Axiom Space is planning to do astronaut training there. So it could be a neat thing, but it may be a little bit too early to see. I mean, maybe Virgin Galactic could come out here and start flying out of there. That would be a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember, I think it was just a couple of weeks ago when that spaceport got the green signal and they were to go ahead with the functioning. But yes, I also read simultaneously, there was a lot of criticism for the building of the spaceport because it was there was like works going on the spaceport since the last 6 years, and a lot of people complain that why not we work on our own, own airport systems, and why do we need a spaceport? But then one part of me says that Houston is playing ahead of the game. Another part of me says that I think it's too early, but I feel that if the spaceport is being used optimally, and if it's made the best use of, I would be like fully, I would be all support for the spaceport.
Yeah, I mean, and the other question that we should ask is why can't we do both? Why are we making choices where you have to do one or the other? What keeps them both from happening?
Right, right. I think it's the uh, I, I just think that they yes they should be investing both on the air transport systems in Houston itself as well as the spaceport. But I don't know. I think it comes to the taxes and people's. I think it's to do with the Houston. I think it's to do with the rulers as well, the mayors and all the authorities. I think they also have a take on whether they should go ahead with investing or not. I'm not really well aware of it, but I believe that is so.
Yeah, it's an issue. We need better government people, better people in the contracting. People that
Mhm.
really want to get stuff done is the key.
Indeed, indeed. And also, if I'm not wrong, there was this, just like what I was talking about earlier about the Hyperloop system, from Houston to Dallas, that would, shorten the travel time by such a great margin. But I believe even that project didn't go ahead, didn't it?
Oh, you're talking about the high speed rail
Yes, yes,
plan.
yeah, high speed rail. Yes, correct.
Yes, that's a good question. I mean, they have a website where they sort of outlined the path,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
they've been um, working on getting support for it. But I have no idea on kind of where it is. Definitely,
Oh, okay.
lots of people have been working on it, for sure.
Right, right. Yeah, I did read some people say that there are people who own land, in between of those, in between of the highways, that leads from Houston to Dallas. So some people say that they have their own land and they won't allow of the high speed rail, to build those pillars, to support the track. So I think it's also upon the public to really welcome the high speed rail technology, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a challenge to um, I mean, if you bought like a farm and your thought was this is what I'm going to do for a living, and It's a nice place, and then suddenly somebody wants to build a railroad track through it. And it's not going to help you out because it's not going to take you anyplace. It's just really hard to see people naturally wanting to support that.
Correct. Yep. Yep. Absolutely. I think the what I like about this place is that people they have the power to voice their opinion and for to really prove the point. I think that's the beauty of that's the beauty of this country, isn't it? They have the power to make a project happen. They have the power not to make a project happen. I think as long as the people are happy, that's what really matters.
Yeah, it's a challenge, but it's not an impossible challenge. We can kind of figure it out and make it work. So we'll
Right.
see.
Right. Right. So I guess Nathan, I think that's about it.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Raj. I really appreciate your time, and hopefully some time we can meet up in person.
Oh yes, absolutely. I'm really looking forward, that if we can meet again and talk about space and the moon, of course.
Well, sounds good. Well, you
All
have a
right.
good rest of your day.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Bye bye.